A shocking report has revealed that students at some higher education institutions are forced to exchange sexual favors for such things as accommodation. The report by the Commission for Gender Equality was conducted at the Nelson Mandela Northwest and Sol Plaatje universities. I'm now joined by Professor Ramneek Ahluwalia, Higher Health CEO. Prof, a very good afternoon to you. Thanks very much for your time. Apologies for the delay. We had to take the finance minister quickly. But were you aware of this sort of behavior?
Good afternoon, Vuyo, and good afternoon to everyone. Yes, we can't deny the fact that gender-based violence is brutal. It's a massive pandemic in South Africa and globally. Higher education is a microcosm of the bigger society, and we brutally get impacted by GBV. And sex for marks, sex for education, sex for work, these are brutal realities of this country and for us. It's something that exists around us, and something that we have to really fight it. It's not a linear epidemic where you can put a treatment or a vaccine and you can solve an epidemic. This is a societal epidemic. It's embedded from generations. Poverty, our other massive challenges like drugs and alcohol around, the peer influence. Universities, TVET colleges, community colleges, these are young people coming out from the households into a peer, into a new world, faced with uncertainties, ginormous challenges around them. And if we do not make our institutions safe, or if we do not put systems together, they do fall into these traps that have been put together from generation of society, which leads to the vulnerable being more vulnerable. And I think that is what is happening, Rio. And that is what we need to fight. We are fighting. We win a lot, but we lose a lot too. And every year we pick it up and we keep fighting. And that kind of brutality is this pandemic. And every life matters to when it gets reported in such circumstances.
And may I add to what you said right at the beginning, Prof, the fact that the study was conducted at the NMU and Northwest University and the Sol Plaatje University doesn't necessarily mean that it is confined only to those universities, as you correctly point out. But a question perhaps to ask is whether generally, institutions of higher learning specifically are alive to this reality, and whether in fact there is evidence that something is being done to deal with this pandemic.
You're right, Theo. Action speaks volumes now. We are aware of it. We became the first ever sector in the African continent to at least put a whole policy framework together, which forces every institution to put a system together to protect every child going through this brutality called gender-based violence. So, again, we're very good at writing policies and frameworks. That's not the answer. Now, last year became a historic year because South African Constitution made a Sexual Violence Act of 2023 revision, which makes every vulnerable woman before the age of 25 vulnerable now. And what does that mean is we have an opportunity to now start building trust with our population. The stigma can be broken. Our reality is 1 in 3 young women before the age of 21 do get sexually violated, as all the data suggests. But very few get reported. And what we need to do is build trust with our community to report. And that can only happen if we protect the evidence. Within minutes of the case being reported, the judicial system needs to take precedence before the management or the institution tampers with the case. And that is the change, which means SAPS, the NPA, higher education, we work collaboratively together. The quasi-system, which is our institutional management system, do not get much opportunities to tamper with the evidence so that the trust can be built and the survivor-centric approach, the survivor gets justice. And that is what the new act believes into. And that is what we are following. Psychosocial assistance, making sure that there is proper protocols of how to secure evidence, capacity in the institutions to ensure the protection of a child, whether you are in Bizana, whether you're in Ulundi, and not just on WITS, but everywhere, as you rightfully said, Vuyo, gets the same treatment. And I think what Higher Health has done is 10,000 peer educators, exactly how we fought HIV. HIV is a societal epidemic, not just a health epidemic. When the people living with HIV came out and spoke to other peers, more people believed in the trust that ARVs can be protective, HIV tests can be done, and we can break the stigma of HIV. Similarly, with gender-based violence, when survivors form their groups together, reform perpetrators come out and reform their groups, encourage others to come together, a revolution can start. So it has to be built within communities of youth and build systems of towards how we're going to do it, and that's where we are moving. And now, in South Africa, civic and soft skills become an extra co-curriculum for every institution, whether you're a plumber, you're an artisan, you're a university graduate or a community college. And gender studies is a credit-bearing course for every South African. If this is the brutal epidemic of 1 in 3 women, then every South African needs to have skills to understand how and what is gender-based violence, what is gender equality, what is gender diversity. And that is exactly what CGE report is pointing towards. And education is empowerment. Young women coming into our institutions must know what rights they have. They have the right to refuse sex with even a partner they know. That's constitutional rights. And we need to protect our people one by one this way.
Prof, I mean, sex for marks, sex for promotion, we've known about for the longest time. But have we shown as much spotlight on the students versus student leaders one?
You're absolutely right. And we've established our protocol. So take a policy and put, like exactly how we fought COVID, put protocols together. Staff-student relationship. If any staff takes students, consent must be put first together, that there is no relationship, because that's where sex for marks gets exploited with. Similarly, from HR policies to systems putting together for how to prevent sex for education. Travel policy, when staff students travel together. Issues like campus safety, most importantly, resident safety, private accommodation, community policing, patrolling of security personnel or campus security systems. Simple thing like lighting from library to institutions, to bathroom latches in residences or in sports complexes, where the epidemic brews into, where the scavenger finds its way to enter. We need to close. And these are, as much as these are microscopic protocols, but every protocol speaks to one life saved. And I think that is what this is. Each and every institution has to follow, should follow, and build a system of resilience against this pandemic.
Prof, let me thank you very much for your time. And once again, apologies for holding you for much longer than we ought to have done. The challenges, of course, of live television. Professor Ramneek Ahluwalia, Higher Health CEO, talking about that report, which talks about sexual harassment at a higher education institution. That research, of course, conducted by the Gender Commission. Hopefully we'll be able to explore it further, but also its implications in the next few days.